Welcome to Paradelphia Radio. This is Rick Pruitt back in the Toxic Network studios along with a full house tonight.
Kinda, yeah.
Got my co-host with the most, Mr. Doug Hogate.
Thank God you're back and I didn't have to fake introduce you.
Yeah. There we go.
It was after I said
every single time. We have our lovely assistant is back in studio, Miss Jenna. Hello.
What are you wearing?
I am a blood, so I wear the red. No, I'm just kidding.
She really is. She's wearing like a... I didn't notice that.
My husband was like, "What's with the bandana? Did you join the Bloods?"
Yeah.
I was like,
I'm a little intimidated right now. I'm not going to lie to you.
She got my peeps downstairs.
Watch it.
Yeah.
Watch it.
And we also have back in studio for the second time your mom, Miss Linda Lopez.
Hello, a.k.a. Buttered Biscuit. Thank you.
Butter Biscuit.
Butter biscuit.
She wants to be introduced as Butter Biscuit
Hi,
from now on.
Thank you for having me.
That's
Guys are awesome.
anyway.
She brought us gifts tonight too.
Yes, she did.
Brought us all gifts.
She wouldn't tell me what mine was until we just walked in, which we were almost late, but
we
made it.
Yeah.
Not my fault.
Yeah. So we thank her for that. And I want to thank you guys and Mike, who's in a different room here at Toxic Mike, for taking over last week.
Sure, no.
It was kind of a rough night. I mean, as you guys know, my love of animals is, well known.
Oh, yeah.
We have 11. Well, we had 11 in the house. That's kind of the point.
Yeah.
Last week, our oldest, Jiggy, who I've had around, she's a little black cat.
Mm-hmm.
I've had her around since 1998. So she was 17 years old, just turned 17. And she was hanging in there. And then she, of course, everything always happens on a Thursday night.
Yeah.
Same thing last time with my dog. And she didn't look well, and so I had to take her to the vet, and she wound up passing away that night.
Well,
so
that's when you had told me that, I knew it hit you hard because, like you said, 1990. I mean, she led a long life, 18 years. Wow.
It's tough. So anybody who has animals will understand when I say it's like losing a child.
Oh, sure.
Definitely, yeah.
It really is. I mean, some people shake their head at that, but at the same time, if you've had someone in your life, and when I say dogs and cats and really any animal, if you are particular to snakes or whatever else, I mean, it is what it is. I know Doug's not.
I don't think I'd feel so bad about snakes.
Like snakes.
or what's that thing that Tiffany has?
The anteater that I call?
Yeah, the Cordamungi or
Cudamundo
or something. Yeah.
It was like an anteater.
Right.
Anacondas.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Maybe not.
Don't
anacondas.
lead her on, please.
No. So anyway, it was a rough time. It still kind of is, but we push forward here, and we've had enough contact with people like Sharon O'Brien that do animal communication that I feel pretty confident that and Gene Durkin, who we're going to talk about in a little bit here tonight. I feel pretty confident that Jiggy is in a good place, and she'll hang in there and wait for me whenever it's my turn.
Oh yeah. Well, hopefully you're not wishing that anytime soon.
Not wishing for it anytime soon.
I would have to call someone if that was the case.
Not wishing for it anytime soon, but you get the point.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I want to thank you guys for doing the show last week. It was I did listen to it. Obviously, I put it up on Sunday night for Monday, so I listened to the show, and it was interesting. The interview was really interesting. And Brian was actually a pretty good a guest, the way he came on, and this is Brian Glass, who was the Area 51 caller from the Coast to Coast show. He came on and he kind of really explained pretty thoroughly what his reasons were and how it all played out. Now, when he talked to us at Comic-Con, I didn't realize exactly what it was. I thought it was just him goofing.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what I had thought.
Yeah.
And I thought it was just like, I'm going to prank call.
And what he eventually, said last week was it basically he was calling, he was goofing, but it was kind of prompted by the show because the format they were doing at the time, Art Bell was doing a format where he kind of threw out a topic and said, call in if you are, and fill in the blank. And that night happened to be, was aliens. It
was like
or something.
aliens or like abductions and things like that.
Right.
Yeah. So
he did call in under those conditions, and therefore you would think that people would understand that's what was going on, but then when everything blacked out, then it all kind of went haywire.
That I'm telling you, it's still a crazy story because when I was younger, maybe somewhat recently, I love doing prank calls. I Like, I would do all kinds of different ones. So the fact that he called in this famous radio show and then everything went blank, you cannot ask for a perfect situation.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have been cheering like, yeah, that's awesome. I made all the satellites shut down, And
He pranks calls his grandmother all the time.
Who,
She's
Doug?
79 years old.
Oh my! See, all the dirt comes out.
Yeah.
When you turn the mics on, all the dirt comes out.
See.
So anyway, thank you, thank you guys, and thank Brian for coming on last week. And tonight, moving forward to tonight's show, we have something quite interesting.
Something that I don't think we've ever really touched on.
We've never touched on it on the show. Haven't really even talked about it all that much in news stories.
Mm-hmm.
But vampirism.
Yes.
Or it's not truly vampirism. What this is a lady who her name is Michelle. Is it Navarette?
Navarette, yeah.
Navarette. There we go. I believe she lives out in California, and she was featured on the TLC show My Strange Addiction.
Yeah.
And her strange addiction is that she drinks blood.
Like a lot.
Like not just every once in a while, like daily and multiple times a day.
Mm-hmm.
She cooks in it.
Cooks with it, drinks it like wine. Yeah. So we are going to talk to her tonight about that because obviously that runs parallel with every cliche that's out there for a vampire.
Yeah, exactly.
And literally, short of having the sharp fangs, she essentially is what the traditional vampire has always been thought to be.
And not only that, if you look up the symptoms of like someone who drinks a lot of blood, they are the same symptoms as what the story of a vampire is. You become very, I guess, in a sense, fragile with the sun. That's the whole story where vampires can't go outside. It's not to that point. But things like your eyes turn a different pitch or a different color because it's all that blood intake and I guess all that iron,
right.
It affects you. And I'm interested to see what she has to say about it. And
Is it human blood?
I believe she does ingest human and animal blood, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be...
Yeah.
She'll go through all that. Oh, my gosh. Her story is so interesting.
We have a lot of questions to ask,
yeah.
So we're going to get into all that, but I do believe, there's both going on there, so... I know. You look a little scared. She's not here. She's not in studio, so you don't have to worry about
I think
it.
she's like 3,000 miles away, but
yeah,
it's okay.
Yeah. So that is coming up shortly. Now, getting back to the whole thing from last week with the aliens and the Area 51 topic, this week, if you were watching the news, or at least, well, I guess it was sort of on mainstream news too, but especially on paranormal radio shows and whatever, yesterday, correct? No, 2 days ago, I'm sorry, May 5th, Cinco de Mayo, down in Mexico, during Cinco de Mayo, there was a release of information and specifically a presentation of slides that were found that supposedly depicted the alien bodies that were recovered from the Roswell crash in 1947.
Interesting.
Have you heard about this?
I saw something, but I didn't get into actually reading it. Like I saw a couple headlines on it.
Yeah. Basically what had happened, and I'm going to play a little clip here. It's going to run for a couple of minutes. It'll kind of sort of explain everything. But the long and the short of it is there were slides that were found in and among, slides that were just general happy time slides, of people that took pictures of their vacations and a couple of famous people that were on on these slides. Back in the 40s, you have the individual slides that went in the circular projector.
Yeah.
So these two slides that were found were of these alien bodies. And apparently in Mexico on the 5th, there was an event held at at a 10,000 seat auditorium where they pretty much gave a presentation and said, here are the slides, and here is what this is all about.
Yeah, that's...
So
I bet that was a shock to whoever found that right away.
Yeah. So now this, I'm going to play a clip here. It's from a documentary about the slides. It's called Kodachrome. That's the name of the documentary. And this is going to kind of give a general overview of what happened, and then we'll come back and we can talk about this.
The story is still coming together, but at this point I can comfortably say that the slides are unaltered originals and that they were taken between 1939 and 1949. The body is exceptionally thin and is between 36 and 48 inches long. The head appears to be larger than its torso and has some very unusual features. I'm starting to show the slides to people, having them examined by experts in photography and forensics and anthropology.
It'd be hard to fake the design of the slide, the stamps, all that other stuff on here. I mean, it'd be really, really hard to fake that or duplicate that if you were trying to.
I even showed them to Neil deGrasse Tyson, who understandably was less than convinced.
So maybe it's a real alien that landed. Fine. I don't have a problem with that. Come back later when you got.
Fair enough, Dr. Tyson. And then there's this guy, who was an Army lieutenant at Roswell Air Force Base in July of 1947.
It looks identical, or a good copy. If this is a copy, I just say, if this is a copy, they did pretty good.
And then when you start to do a 3D recreation of the body in the photo, that's when things start to get, well, a little strange. Logic tells me it's probably nothing, but I simply can't shake the thought that maybe, just maybe, it's something.
So that is the kind of long and the short of what we're talking about here. Now, obviously, people sitting at home can't see what we saw on the video clip. You can find that on YouTube, by the way, if you want to actually view that. But it is pretty interesting, and you did see shots of the slides there.
Yeah.
So what do you think?
I don't know. I think that's again with pictures and things like that. It's a little different from video and whatnot. You don't know if they are altered, but it's interesting that they've had experts he's had several experts examine and say, well, they aren't duplicates or they weren't altered with. However, I mean, even back in the 40s, people were doing things to, especially that time era, the whole story with Roswell, where people coming up with these fake-looking aliens and taking pictures of them just so one day someone would find it. I mean, sure, okay, they weren't altered with, but that doesn't mean they aren't hoaxed.
Right.
But, keeping an open mind with it, if this truly is a finding that comes right from Roswell, then this is an incredible find. And I think we talked a few weeks ago, I think I'd asked you about when do you think it would come clean, when it would be confessed out there that UFOs and aliens are real. And you said, well, it's kind of doing it now, slowly but surely, without coming out right away and saying. So this is just another example, and all the experts out there and things just being closed up with all these files and information locked up in a basement or attic. Eventually, somebody's going to find it. So
right, all this stuff. That's kind of my take on all this. Is over the course of literally decades, we've had these little tidbits that are coming out, whether it's through. Well, lately it's been social media, but before that it was through entertainment. Yeah, movies, TV. The old. What was it? The old show V. Remember that? Yeah. Now they redid it a few years ago, but the original I remember from the mid '80s. Just everything going back to books and all that stuff. And like I said, I think I made the analogy that if you throw a frog in hot water, he'll jump right out. But if you throw him in cold water and slowly turn the heat up, he won't even know he's cooking until it's too late. Yeah. And that's kind of the idea. You slowly leak this stuff out there little by little, and people kind of laugh at it at first, and it kind of gets into the pop culture, and it's kind of become known as a thing, but not really taken seriously. And then lately, in the last 10 to 15 years, you start to see more mainstream news, and mainstream scientists are kind of like, well,
yeah, there's more and more like,
maybe
this is something that we can't figure out.
And eventually you're going to get to a point where you're going to have someone produce something, that is irrefutable. Now maybe this is it. I don't know. True. It's a slide. It's not a body, and I kind of look at it like Bigfoot. You can have all the video and all the pictures in the world. You can have one walk up to your camera and try to bite your face off, but at the same time, there's going to be somebody out there that's going to say it was fake.
Yeah, there's someone dressed up. Yeah,
until you have a body that can be studied by scientists.
I feel like one day somebody, kind of like the movie Mars Attacks, one day they're just going to land and be like, hey, we do exist.
Yeah.
We've been laughing at you all this time.
Well, that could be. I mean, that's that's not inconceivable that that could possibly be the case. So yeah, so this is it's pretty interesting.
And this is a documentary that is it online or is this something that comes on TV? Because I'd like to.
I don't think it's on TV. It may not even be available yet. You'd have to check that. It's called Kodachrome.
Have to check out that website that it gave. Okay.
What's on YouTube right now is a trailer. That's what we just saw, part of the trailer. And I'm kind of thinking maybe it isn't made yet because they probably, if I were doing a documentary, I'd be waiting until they did the whole
everything together
reveal, right? Which only happened 2 days ago. So I imagine what it probably is they did part of the documentary. They released a trailer. They probably filmed a lot down in Mexico this week, and then most likely they'll put everything together and release it sometime going forward. I don't know that for sure, but that would seem like the most logical. Yeah.
Oh, well, there's a lot of major motion picture movies that once you see the trailer, start seeing a trailer for it, a lot of times it's not done.
Right.
You know, it's like you're seeing the trailer, like, oh, that looks good, but they're still filming somewhere. They just want to get it released right away and start getting the word out there. So
yeah.
So
something to look forward to, or look at, I guess.
Yeah.
Going forward, we'll see how people react to this. It's only been a couple of days, and it was the information about it obviously was leaked out because they had to send invitations and let the public know that this was going on. So clearly they had to tell people generally what was going on, and even the pictures I think were leaked, quote unquote leaked. Weeks ahead of time.
Okay.
So they did their whole presentation, which was kind of anticlimactic because people knew, already knew what was going on and knew what was going to be there, But at the same time, now that it's happened, we'll kind of wait and see,
absolutely.
What everybody thinks.
We'll have to keep an eye on it and keep following up.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Did you notice, though, the slides look like the same kind of character for years aliens represent? Like.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the grays. It looked like a typical gray.
With the big eyes.
Yeah. Which, I mean, there may be a reason for that. Maybe that is really what's out there.
Well, we were and we were having a discussion with it before. I think Mike was on with us that if you look at people who have taken basically in time, like the whole story of evolution, where we came from apes or whatnot. It's slowly you have the ape, and then in time it's grown to be what man is now. Right. But then if you go into centuries later to see more development of what a human looks like, it could potentially have the same look as what the so-called alien looks like. So that goes in, of course, that goes into the whole thing with, are they time travelers? Are they actually us from way, way distant in the future, time traveling back? And, they look creepy and whatnot, but who's to say that's not what humans will look like further down in year 10,000 or what? You know what I'm saying?
I hear you.
It's interesting, yeah.
I hear you. So yeah, it's something to look forward to hearing more about, I guess. All right, so moving on from that.
Yeah.
Last night, Doug and I went on a investigation. This was kind of a scaled down version of a jumps investigation.
Exactly.
Specifically for the purpose of kind of making it a little more personal for the lady. And why don't you the one who kind of spearheaded this? So why don't you describe exactly what it was?
Well, the idea was the client had come to me, and she had claims that you would typically hear about. However, it was very, very personal for her. So I wanted to have Gene involved with it, but at the same token, I wanted to try out an experiment rather than a typical scientific investigation that we typically do, where Gene does her reading, but the equipment is all set up throughout the house like it normally was, and monitoring the activity, I guess in a sense scientifically, while she's doing the spirituality part of it.
Right.
Because you don't get a situation where there's always two worlds. Somebody can go talk to a psychic medium, and then somebody can go call somebody like me in with our team to investigate. And it seems something that's not really tested as far as I can see, where you bring the two together. And I don't know what Jean does for her medium, and she doesn't know much about the paranormal side of things, so it's combining it together. And I have to tell you, you saw after last night during that time, which, what was it, 2 hours pretty much. During that time, the stuff we were monitoring while Jean was doing her thing, it was unbelievable. I mean, the results that we got were incredible.
Yeah, Jean did her normal, reading, I guess. And while she was doing the reading, we had all the cameras trained on her, and we had the thing I was looking at the most was the Xbox Kinect.
The Kinect, yeah.
Which, if you guys aren't familiar with it, a lot of places are using it now. You see it a lot on the Ghost Adventure show. Basically, what it is, it's a black screen that has the person in front of it mapped as a stick figure. Essentially, it's used in the video game to map your body so you can play the interactive video games. But the version that Doug's team has, and the one that you see on TV, has been modified to simply map a person that stands in front of it. Now, the idea being that you're going to map whoever's standing there, but if there's an entity that comes into the screen range of the screen, it's also going to map that.
Yes.
Now, we saw this work a few months ago when you first tried to use it.
Yeah, the first time was at Shady Lane.
Shady Lane.
Because you were the very first one to spot it.
Yeah. And then last night, again, while Jean was doing her reading, it was Jean obviously mapped on the screen, and then at one point in the top right-hand corner of the screen, while there was no one else near her, there was a little figure that looked like possibly a small child, or a small figure,
very
at least,
small,
that was on the screen. Kind of looked like it was bundled up or crouching.
It did. It kind of looked like it was on top of her refrigerator, because the refrigerator was behind Jean.
Right.
It was crazy.
So that was one of the things we saw, and then later on in the evening, while Jean was going forward with the reading, there was a second entity that appeared, and this one was huge.
Yeah. Tall,
as in probably, based on what we saw on the screen, a couple of feet taller than Jean.
Yeah.
Which would have been maybe seven-ish feet tall.
I would say, yeah, because Jean's probably 5'4", 5'5".
Yeah. So
yeah, at least another foot taller than her.
So yeah, at least, yeah. And this one kind of shambled around a little bit, and at one point, Brenda, the lady who we're doing the reading for, the entity in the home, is quite possibly a very close. I guess it was her ex or her boyfriend,
something like that. Yeah, who passed away only a few months ago, actually.
Right. And so this entity at one point was in an area on the screen that would have corresponded with being very, very near to where Brenda was standing.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw it at one point put its arm out.
Yeah, its arm literally came out and went right around her.
Yeah.
Like you saw it. It was crazy.
Yeah, as if it was putting its arm around her and comforting her.
Yeah.
So that was crazy, and we got all that on tape.
Yeah, every bit of what happened last night we got on video. We're going to put a little package together, and I'll post it online for everybody to see. And but it's very, especially when people see how the devices that we had set up right between Jean and the client. So every time Jean would stop and start thinking about something, the K2 device and the meter would start to flash, and this type of meter actually gives a static kind of audible sound.
Right.
And it only does that when it's really receiving such a high energy. You can hear the static.
Right.
It would do it, and then it would stop, and then Jean would start talking and say, okay, this is what I have now.
Yeah.
So, and it was very active. It was responding to her and the things she was saying. So I don't, all in all, with this little, in a sense, it was an experiment, was very, very successful. Of course, we had audio running, going to review that. And
do you think it was a couple of
yeah, Jean was saying that like at first when she started, she was saying that she basically described the one spirit she was getting as a jackass. like a real like a smart ass, not like a not a donkey.
Sorry, I thought you meant an animal.
Not an actual jackass.
Yeah, not a donkey. Yeah, no. But she was saying that it would start to respond, but then she started picking up. She was saying the second one was like a child, and I forget.
Yeah, because the what Brenda was telling us was that before Dale, which was the gentleman that passed away, before he passed away, they had a couple of sightings of a little boy in the house.
That's right, yeah.
And there was a story that a little boy had drowned in their house. Literally sits right on the Delaware Bay, just outside their back door is the Delaware Bay, and it's in kind of like a marshy area down in that Salem County area. So basically. She said she had this little boy entity that she saw a few times, and the story was this little boy drowned and his body washed back up onto the beach right near the house. So when Jean did her investigation last night, she picked up on an older male figure, which was probably her boyfriend that passed, but she also picked up on a little boy, and the male figure was kind of acting as a guardian of the little boy. Yeah. Against the jackass.
Against the jackass, yeah.
Feel that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah. And again, I think when you look at both sides of it, medium and investigating, you combine the two together, and it's a unique kind of situation. It's a unique way of looking at it, because you're getting, in a sense, the scientific part of it on top of getting a medium thing. You can see how the two respond with one another. Like, you could see when Gene would do something, the equipment would respond. Then you could see once the equipment started to respond, Gene would come up with something. Right. So it was a great experiment. We were only there 2 hours, but that was plenty of time with what we were trying to do.
Yeah.
And I think it was a huge success, and I'm looking forward to seeing if any audio was picked up also. But all in all, I mean, the stuff we picked up. Yeah, it's
very interesting evening.
Yes. So.
All right, we're going to take a break here, and we're going to come back, and we'll do a little bit of Paranews. Oh, yeah.
What year was that from?
Little Jungle Love from the Time. That was, what year was that? That was probably 84-ish.
I was not born yet.
Me either.
I was.
The only reason I know that song is because on Jay and Silent Bob.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That's the only reason I know that song.
I know the song. I just was curious what year.
That was on, you ever see Purple Rain?
Of course.
That's on that movie.
Yeah,
movie.
Okay, that's right, yeah.
He was the guy who was Prince's adversary in that movie.
Now you got me wanting to hear Purple Rain.
Oh, yeah. Well, what are we gonna do? An all Prince?
Like Purple
Rain. Oh, please don't. Now would be an excellent time to do some news.
From the four corners of planet Earth, from the far reaches of the known universe, you can run, but you cannot escape. Paradelphia News.
That was the guy from last night. All this time. We brought him there.
We brought him there. Well, that's what Jean said. She said somebody may have brought because she said poltergeist.
Yeah, it was like a
few times, and she said it could have been somebody bringing a poltergeist there.
Great. The whole time it's Ferdinand.
Uh-huh. All right, so what do you got?
Man becomes first to enter the door of hell.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Explorer George Coronis has become the first person to descend in the Turkmenistan's infamous fire pit. Located in Derwiz, Ahal province, the burning pit received its nickname Door to Hell due to its ominous appearance and because it has remained on fire for more than 40 years. Originally thought to be an oil field site, the pit was opened up by Soviet engineers after a drilling rig they set up collapsed into a large crater. Concerned about the release of toxic fumes, they set the gas on fire, believing it would burn out within weeks, but instead it remained all right for more than 4 decades. Now a popular tourist destination, the pit has attracted large numbers of visitors to the region, but to date nobody has proven themselves brave or foolish enough to try lowering themselves inside of it. Yeah, because, it's a burning pit of fire. Why don't we do that?
That stinks.
Yeah, that stinks at that. That was at least until explorer George Coronis took up the challenge, not to be discouraged by the flaming depths of the pit and spurred on by rumors that the fire was to be extinguished by the government. The 41-year-old, who is no stranger to extreme heats, having previously braved volcanoes, donned a space flame proof suit and descended into the fire. Now, I'm hoping this wasn't one of those flame suits they use in movies, because I think the fire is a little bit hotter.
So did this guy who went down there, did he think he was going into hell, or was he just doing an investigation?
I don't know, because there's people that I guess this thing is just originally something they set on fire thinking it would burn out, and it never did. But some people think it's the gate of hell. Because you know how people, when they think, they come up with stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, oh, that's why it's burning.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go on.
No. But while he was there, he retrieved samples for scientific study and discovered that there was even bacteria living inside the crater despite the high temperature and methane fumes. Since this was something nobody had ever done before, there was a lot of uncertainty and questions, he said. When I actually set foot at the bottom, it was an overwhelming feeling. I'm sure. I was in a spot where no human had ever been. It was like stepping onto an alien planet. If the planet was on fire. We should send this guy to the sun.
Stepping on an alien planet if the planet was on fire?
I guess. But I don't know. That just sounds too hot to me. I mean, even approaching it, it's got to be hot.
You would think. You would think that would be prohibitive.
Yeah, but this guy, I guess he didn't care if he was going to burn up.
That guy is ballsy.
Yeah, and well, not only that, he's went into volcanoes, it said.
And he's a little crispy.
I guess.
Pretty hot guy.
Crispy critter.
Yeah. So.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, well, yeah. All right.
You want to go there? Should we do a
Let's move on.
Little thing there?
We're going to completely go a different direction here.
Okay.
Did you know that during World War II, the Allies tried to disarm Hitler using female sex hormones?
What?
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting.
And there's a pretty picture of Hitler with a bow tie in his hair in this story, too.
That is fantastic.
Which is...
Lucky.
Which is lovely. Just lovely. Yeah, this is from mentalfloss.com. It says...
mentalfloss.com. Okay,
Mental floss, yeah. Let's see, where are we here? Desperate times call for desperate measures, and the situation during World War II was definitely qualified as desperate. Accordingly, it seemed very few proposed plans for defeating the Nazis were dismissed as being too over the top. At one time or another, the Allied forces debated dropping glue on Nazi troops in an attempt to stop them in their tracks, disguising bombs in tins of imported fruit, dropping boxes of venomous snakes, releasing live bat bombs, or using the Great Panjandrum, a massive rocket-propelled wheel of explosives.
Wow.
However, perhaps the most outlandish idea proposed involved making the Fuhrer more like his sister, the mild-mannered Paula, who worked as a secretary.
Okay.
Now, if you're the sister of the Fuhrer, you couldn't pull better work than a secretary?
That's of all the things out there, yeah.
Seriously?
Well, we're gonna use your hormones here.
like Adolf. Remember when I helped you out with the little skiff you were in when you were a kid?
Yeah, right.
Remember that when I punched out little Sven? Maybe you ought to do a little solid for me. Get me out of the secretary pool. Anyway, it says a study at the time by the U.S. Office of Strategic Services, a precursor to the CIA, claimed that on the gender spectrum, Adolf Hitler fell notably near the middle, close to the male-female line, wrote the OSS Director of Research and Development, Stanley Lovell. The Allies thought if they could just tip him over into the female territory, he would lose his hold on Germany and the war would be won.
How sexist.
It really is. Sources differ on whether the hope was that a more feminized Hitler would be less aggressive and thus less inclined to commit mass genocide, or that if he lost his facial hair and grew breasts, he would simply not have the confidence or charisma to allow him to serve effectively as a malevolent dictator.
I'm sick and tired of this war. I'm done.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, man.
But how to go about making Mr. Hitler more like Mrs. Hitler? By putting female sex hormones in his carrots, of course.
The carrots are my favorite.
Carrots.
What's he doing with
There
his
were
carrots?
agents.
I'm sorry.
There were agents who would be able to get into his food. It would have been entirely possible, said Brian Ford, a British professor and author of the book that first revealed the plot, Secret Weapons, Technology, Science, and the Race to Win World War II. If the plan was carried out, spies and members of the OSS would bribe Hitler's gardener to inject his carrots with estrogen. Over time, the estrogen consumption would make him more feminized. You are probably wondering if the Allies had the means to inject foreign substances into Hitler's food. Why didn't they just poison him and be done with it? Unfortunately, it wasn't that simple. Hitler, aware of his many enemies, employed a host of food tasters whose sickness or death would have set up an immediate red flag.
Yeah, here, taste this for me first.
Yeah. Estrogen was chosen instead because of its tastelessness and would work slowly and subtly enough to on the Fuhrer and on his army of testers to go undetected. So not only would he turn more feminine, but all his testers would turn more feminine.
God, sounds like a fabulous peninsula.
So it would basically be the cast of Kinky Boots would be running the show in Germany.
Oh my God, it'd be a heck of a reality show.
So yeah. That plan didn't happen, but if only.
It's like, I'm Adolf Hitler and I'm fabulous.
Moving on.
Oh man, that's great. Oh, poor Adolf.
Poor Adolf.
Now, you know what? Now that I'm looking at it, he was kind of hot.
With that bow, that picture with the bow in his hair. I like it.
So from fabulous Hitler to apparently there is a gravity threat.
Oh boy.
Space debris poses real-life gravity threat.
Okay.
The events of the hit movie could become a reality thanks to the large amounts of junk in Earth's orbit.
Junk.
In the movie Gravity, Sandra Bullock ends up fighting for survival after debris from a satellite kickstarts a chain of devastation high up in orbit around the planet. While many of the sequences in the film are a little far-fetched, the scenario of a spacecraft being put in danger by pieces of space junk is actually very real. Scientists at the University of Southampton have this week highlighted the risks posed by even the tiniest pieces of space debris, which can prove just as destructive as the larger ones. Some of the debris is thought to have come from satellites such as the U.S. defense satellite DMSP-F-13, which exploded back in February, producing more than 50,000 tiny fragments. Even though many of these objects will be no longer than the ball in a ballpoint pen, they could disable a spacecraft in collision because of their enormous speed, said Dr. Hugh Lewis. In the case of the DMSP-F-13 explosion, our work has shown that the introduction of a new cloud of small-sized debris into orbit will have increased the risks for other spacecraft in the vicinity, even if the risk from the larger fragments have been discounted. Satellites currently thought to be most at risk include 2 Met Office weather satellites, 2 U.S. military satellites, a U.S. earthquake tracking satellite, and a Canadian disaster management system. The team's findings highlight the dangers posed by the ever-growing threat of space debris and importance of coming up with effective new ways to remove existing pieces of space junk from orbit. So there's a lot of stuff flying around up there, and it's when I read this, I thought of one of the shows I like to watch is comes on like the Science Channel. It's called like NASA's Secret Files.
Yeah.
And one of the stories they did on that was an amateur astronomer was looking at a satellite and he saw this like figure just floating. It was real fast and it was going faster than a typical, like when you see a satellite orbiting or whatnot. So he called NASA, he called the experts and told them about it. So they did like this big thing, and they did find that there was this strange moving orbit that would go in between like the sun, and every so often it would go around the Earth and the moon, and it was just on its own path.
Yeah.
And they couldn't explain it, just did the same track. Well, after doing a lot of research, they determined that, remember back in the Apollo days, you know, the astronauts were in the small at the very top, and they would release as they were lifting
the
off.
rockets.
Well, it was actually one of the rockets from, I think they said one of the Apollo missions.
Yeah.
Where they let it go into space, and it just got into this orbit. So it's from like back in the 60s and the 70s.
So it's been orbiting for 40 some odd years.
Doing this whole thing. That's what they were able to determine. So it's interesting, you all of a sudden something crashes down from like Apollo 13, be like, oh, that's the thing that blew up.
Well, it makes you wonder because if you go up into space now, I mean, there's so much shit up there that I mean, how did they account for that?
Well, it's the thing. They just release it and figure, it's just going to float away in space.
Well, speaking of poopy, I'm sorry to say that word on the air.
Where are we talking about poopy?
Well, what you're saying, like when they do release, like, their
that's true,
stuff,
yeah.
I mean, that's
you're talking
around.
like she's talking about the
when they go to the bathroom
crap.
Yeah,
and you're right.
I mean, it doesn't absorb anywhere.
And there's no bacteria up there in
who's to say
space.
it doesn't turn into some kind of rock? You know what I mean? And
because it's frozen. Yeah, that's a good point.
I'm sorry.
Why do you keep saying sorry every time we talk?
The poop topic.
But no, you're right.
But,
wouldn't that be a bitch?
I know. Floating around and all of a sudden.
Multi-billion-dollar rocket brought down by shit. 40-year-old fossilized rock hard astronaut shit.
That would be fantastic. I would love that story.
How
and
funny would that be?
what are the aliens thinking too?
It's probably ended up on their planet and they're trying to sue us or something. We're going to have a big galactical court hearing.
They're looking at it like it's us.
Yeah,
Look at the life form on that planet.
This comes out of them? Oh, man. That would be great, though. All of a sudden, they do the test and be like, oh, this is Neil Armstrong, so we're going to blame him for bringing down. That's great. Okay,
wow.
Anyway.
All right,
nice.
So a few weeks ago, I did a story on some creepy things that kids said.
Okay.
So I don't know what it is about kids and creeping people out, but I totally get it. It's, I guess, maybe the innocence juxtaposed against the evil, Now, this isn't anything that kids necessarily did. These are sinister stories that happened in relation to baby monitors.
Okay.
So, anybody that has had kids in the last 15, 20 years probably has used a baby monitor. And when you listen to that monitor, the last thing you want to hear is anything but your baby in that room.
And I've had a lot of claims of that. We're investigating. People always say there's weird things you hear on the baby monitor.
Right. So we have some stories here. I'm not sure I'm going to get through all these, but we'll do a few of them.
Okay.
Now this one says, where are we here? This is called Friend's Bear Not There, or Friend Bear's Not There.
Okay.
Now these are written in by the people who experienced this, so I'm going to read these, as if I'm the person reading them.
Just to let everybody know, it's not you that is saying this.
No, this isn't me. Yeah. This is me reading a story.
Rick wrote it. Okay. Just getting good.
It says, hopefully this fits well enough because it was a baby monitor that set it off. Okay, so my daughter is now almost 2 and has long since moved into her own room. We have one of those video monitor things where you can see and hear the baby on this little TV thing, or you can turn the picture off and get sound. So one night, maybe a month ago, I'm sitting in bed scrolling through Reddit or something, and I start hearing my daughter babbling to herself. Now it's really late, like 1 or 2 in the morning, much later than she is ever awake, unless something is wrong and she's sick or cutting a tooth or something. So I turn the picture on the monitor on, and I see her standing up in her crib, facing sort of diagonally away from the camera. I see her hands in front of her, but only like half her face. And now is a good time to mention that we have been teaching her ALS since she was, or ASL, since she was about 3 months old. So basically American Sign Language.
Yeah.
Since she was about 3 months old, where am I here? And she's been responding and conversing in sign language since about 10 months. I can see her signing things like the word nice, silly, and fun. And oddly enough, no, don't like, and bear. Of course, being the good and loving mother I am, I get up to see what the heck she's doing. When I get to her room, she's still standing up and signing and babbling toward the far corner. I ask her what she's doing and to who she's talking, and she says and signs as best she can the word friend, which she does again with her whole hand and not just her index fingers, and signs the word bear again. I tell her that I don't see a bear, she sees a bear, but the bear is a stuffed toy that's in the bed behind her, not in the corner of the room. But she giggles at me and signs/says, silly mommy. I can see she's wide awake, so I sit down in the rocker next to the bed trying to figure out what woke her up, but all she'll tell me is friend and bear, and occasionally duck down like she's hiding and making shushing noises. I finally get up and ask her who the friend bear is, and her response literally gave me chills, because she doesn't speak well yet, but she managed to say very clearly and with the most serious face a 20-month-old can pull off, no name, shh. Well, now I'm well and truly freaked out, so I asked her to ask no name friend bear to go home because it's too late to play, and I did what any good loving mother would do, gave her a pacifier, went back to my room, turned off the monitor entirely, and hid under the covers.
Oh, that's good. Forget you, kid.
Yeah.
I'm protecting myself.
Now the next one here says ghostly hands in the night. This is a little bit shorter here. It says, my husband went upstairs to put my son to sleep. He came back down, and we started watching a movie. The window was open, and we could faintly hear our neighbor's dog barking 2 houses down. I looked over at the video monitor in night vision mode, and I see my son standing up and a woman walk in and pick him up.
Wow.
He gladly went with her. I was just in disbelief. I told my husband to go check. He went up there, and kiddo was lying there like trying to sleep. What's your deal? As if the kid was saying, I'm trying to sleep. What's your deal? He came back down, meaning her husband, and we just kind of sat there dumbfounded until we heard the neighbor's dog barking again, but on the baby monitor in our son's room. Took us about a half an hour to finally realize they had the same monitor as us, and we were watching their kid's room.
Oh, man. Wait, so they couldn't tell the difference, I guess?
Well, I guess the frequency, and I guess if the picture is small enough, you see a crib and a child.
Yeah.
And if the picture isn't really clear, the frequency must have flipped over.
So they were able to figure that. I thought they were going to say something like, we got there and the kid was gone. You know,
when
like,
you were a baby, we had a baby monitor for you. We didn't with the other two kids.
Yeah, forget y'all.
But
Thanks.
I'm only kidding, baby. I love
You're
you.
on your own, Jenna.
But the neighbors, not right next door, but across the street, 2 houses down, also had a baby monitor. And we were picking up that baby. We didn't have the visual one, just it was a long time ago. So, but same thing. Thought Bud was crying, go in there, and it was actually, in fact, we could hear him talking sometimes in their house.
So you thought he was speaking like French, or Spanish.
But it's weird because I experienced that.
Wow.
It was really cool.
That's like the old
could get you in trouble, though.
But the old portable phones when they first came out.
Yeah.
You could turn on a scanner or a baby monitor and listen to the entire neighborhood.
Right.
You know, on their phone. So.
Right.
So.
All right. So let's see. Let's move on to the next one here. It says, for the silence of the dead. Honest to God, true story. While I could go on for hours telling stories of my uncle's house, this is probably one of the strangest and most unexplainable. So my uncle and his then girlfriend had just had my little cousin, who is now 13. He was about a week old. They get him all cozy in his crib and put the baby monitor right next to him before they go downstairs to watch TV. He was just a baby, so he couldn't walk or stand or anything, and his crib was in their room. They're downstairs watching TV for about 2 hours. During that time, everything is completely silent other than the sounds of the little baby breathing noises, and eventually they call it quits and go to bed. Now, they have had other strange things happen in their house prior and after this, but this was one of the creepiest. They walk into the bedroom, and every door on every closet, every drawer, and every window was wide open. It was a second floor, so there was no way someone had crawled in through the window silently. The creepy part is they didn't hear anything. If someone had broken in, there's no possible way they could have been quiet enough that door wouldn't have squeaked and that no one would have heard footsteps. The monitor was sensitive enough to detect my cousin's breathing. The baby was still sound asleep and nothing was missing. That's interesting.
It is. Again, though, baby monitors, they work off of a frequency that all the other things work off of. So
now this is one that's we're going to finish with this one because it's by far the most disturbing.
Oh, okay.
It says a fate worse than death.
Oh, wow.
In by far the most chilling baby monitor story I've ever read, a man from the Czech Republic unwittingly saved the child next door from a life of torture. The man was setting up a baby monitor of his own newborn baby when the frequencies got confused and he picked up a stomach-turning image from his neighbors. 2 boys were chained, naked, and beaten in a basement.
What?
After a phone call to police, they were rescued with a variety of sickening injuries that had been inflicted upon them by their own mother.
Wow.
The young boy had been partially skinned alive in order for their mother to eat his flesh, and both of the brothers had been made to cut themselves with knives. Chillingly, the court also heard claims that the abuse of the boys was coordinated by a man known only as the Doctor, who sent mobile phone text messages detailing how to torture the boys. Obviously, both brothers were removed by social services.
Oh my God.
I would hope so.
Could you imagine that?
That is freaking insane. I mean, okay, it's one thing that, oh yeah, we came across this thing and we saw people chained up, kidnapped, we sent it. But these kids were being eaten by their own mother.
Yeah. This is some wild shit.
That is, oh my God. Anyway, I'm having freaking nightmares now.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Moving on.
Moving on. Lost it here. Okay. A 53-year-old Otzi the Iceman yields the oldest known human blood. I figured this was good for our little blood conversation coming up.
Yeah, really.
Researchers have found blood cells in the famous 53-year-old mummy found by hikers in the Austrian Alps years ago. A detailed analysis of his remains has also revealed that he would have died a quick death from his wounds. Otzi the Iceman's blood is the oldest known to science. Otzi was a victim of homicide. Researchers say he suffered a quick, violent death that was over quickly. Sorry, I'm like double reading myself. It was over quickly, but may not have been painless. National Geographic reports he had an arrow wound, but his death probably came from a blow in the back of his head. No blood cells had been found in Otzi since his discovery by German hikers in 1991 until recently. There were no blood traces found even when they opened some arteries, so it was thought maybe the blood had not preserved and had been completely degraded, or that he lost too much blood because of the arrow injury on his back. Albert Zink, head of the Institute for Mummies and the Iceman in Bolzano, Italy, told National Geographic. Zink is a mummy of the team doing research on Otzi's corpse. However, using a nano-sized probe, researchers spotted a distinctive donut shape of red blood cells near the arrow wound and a cut in his right hand. They recorded the movements of the probe with a laser to get three-dimensional images of the cells. The researchers also shone lasers on the wounds and revealed the molecular makeup of the substance to confirm it was indeed blood. So it's nuts. I mean, you have this 53-year-old mummy and they found blood cells, blood traces in there.
53 or 5,300?
5,300.
Yeah.
Yeah.
53-year-old mummy.
53-year-old mummy. Yeah. 5,300.
That's like someone's
mummy.
father. That's
yeah.
Not so.
But
you know.
Yeah, it's like we dug them up and found them, but no, it's interesting. Again, I thought that would lead in well with the blood conversation we're about to have, but
that would be, I guess, aged, vintage blood.
Yeah, and it was, again, like they said, it was obviously preserved very well because there's traces of blood being that old.
Yeah,
we'll have to ask her if she considers older blood like a vintage wine.
There you go.
She likes that better.
Well, listen to how she said that. It was like a vintage wine.
I get very passionate about our callers, our interviewers.
I want to hear.
I thought she was going to say blood.
About
you
blood.
Want to hear more? My mom wants to hear more about the probe. She said.
The probe? What probe?
I don't ask her.
I heard you say that.
Yeah, it was one word in the whole news story. Oh my gosh.
That was a whole other conversation we had before the show.
Yeah, it's
not suitable for this show. All right, so we're going to finish up here with a scientists who are scientists who
can't think now.
Bringing back a mammoth.
Oh,
a woolly mammoth. Says a team of Harvard specialists, Harvard Medical School. Wow, I cannot speak right now. Harvard Medical School geneticists have deciphered the complete genome of not one but two individual woolly mammoths. The results recently published in the Journal of Current Biology are already providing valuable insight into how the species initially died out. Woolly mammoths appeared around 700,000 years ago, first in Siberia, then expanding through Eastern Europe and North America. However, this DNA suggests that mammoths then suffered a pair of population crashes, one at 280,000 years ago and another just 12,000 years ago. In the end, their population reportedly shrank to fewer than 1,000 individuals, the last of whom lived trapped on a Siberian island for nearly 6,000 years before severe inbreeding led to their complete extinction. The Harvard team's efforts building upon a growing body of evidence and experimentation aimed at bringing the furry elephants back to life, like Jurassic Park.
Yes.
Researchers from Penn State University led by a pioneering, albeit unsuccessful, 2008 study that sought to extract complete nucleic and DNA strand from a frozen specimen. Teams from South Korea's Swam Biotech Research Foundation are also currently decoding samples from Buttercup, a 40,000-year-old specimen dug out of Siberia's permafrost last November. While these previous efforts were able to suss out long strands of DNA from their samples, Harvard's research is the first to extract full nucleic genomes. Additionally, another Harvard medical team led by Professor George Church announced last month they successfully spliced short lengths of DNA into modern elephant cells. So basically, they're trying to bring the mammoth back. Now, I don't know if this is a good idea. I saw Jurassic Park last night. It was on TV. It's like we planned that.
Yeah, really.
Sorry, good.
And yeah, you're walking a fine line. They had a line in the movie basically says that these animals had their time and they died out, and there's a reason why they died out.
Yeah.
And to bring back something from millions of years ago or even thousands of years ago into modern times with modern everything going on in the world today, is that a good idea?
Yeah, exactly. There's a reason why maybe humans weren't around during the dinosaur days.
Yeah, and vice versa.
And vice versa, yeah. Wait,
Yeah.
did you just say that last night was the first time you ever saw Jurassic Park?
No, I saw I saw it back in '93 when it was in the movies.
Oh, but you just watched it again.
Yeah, it was on, I don't know what channel it was on, but it was on last night.
I was going to say, that was your go-to-bed show.
That was my go-to-bed show, yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, so we're going to take a break here, and we're going to come back on the other side with Michelle Navarette.
Never ready.
There we go. I said it right twice. Look at that. All right, little Aerosmith.
I like Aerosmith.
Yeah. All right, so we are currently awaiting our guest, Michelle Navarette,
There you go.
to give a call in here.
Hey, Junior!
What was that?
Just because we were struggling during the news on our words.
Doug playing with his toy again.
Yeah,
Oh my God!
Oh boy, see, there it goes.
Well, you have your no pen now, so you can always be like,
Oh,
no.
yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
I should. Wait, hang on. There we go.
My mom got him a pen that you press a button and it says about 30 different no's. That's fantastic.
I'm going to use this every day.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to use this with Taryn. I'm
Aw.
going to use this with my dogs.
That's all. She got. Oh, there she is.
There we go. Hang on. Let's answer the Skype call here. Hello, this is Rick Pruitt, and you are on Paradelphia. Is this Michelle?
Yes, it is.
How you doing, Michelle?
Oh, I'm good. And yourself?
Doing pretty good.
Hi,
Doing pretty
Michelle.
good. I'm here with my co-host Doug Hogate and Jenna, who you've met previously,
Hello.
and with Doug.
Oh, hello there.
And with Doug's mom, Linda Lopez.
Hello.
Hi, Linda.
Now, just to give a brief introduction, on the line with us tonight right now is Michelle Navarette. Michelle is calling in. I believe you're calling from California, correct?
Yes, I am.
You are. And Michelle is calling in tonight because she has a little bit of a strange, would you call it a hobby?
Yeah, I actually prefer hobby to addiction, to be honest with you.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, now I was going to mention, I think I did mention earlier in the show that you were on a show that was called My Strange Addiction, but I did read an article about you, and you said the same thing in the article, that you were kind of preferring to look at it as a hobby instead of an addiction.
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah. Now, Michelle's hobby is that she drinks blood. Now, obviously that, the connotations between doing that and a vampire are pretty,
It's what you think of when you think of this kind of thing. You know, suddenly it's, oh my gosh, vampires and things like that. But again, like I was reading, it's not like that whatsoever.
Right. So we're going to have Michelle talk about that. Now, as far as when and how you got started doing this, Michelle, when would that be and how would that be?
It was when I was a kid. It's really hard to pinpoint the exact age, but I want to say I was somewhere in between like 8 and 10. I was pretty young, and I had gotten some kind of like a scratch, and it bled, and I tasted it, and I really enjoyed it.
Okay. Now, everyone has gotten a cut or something on their mouth. I mean, I don't know if I've ever actually like reached down and tasted blood on my arm or leg or something, but I've tasted blood in my mouth at times. Everyone I'm sure has.
Well, if you get a cut on your finger,
Yeah. So most people have had that experience. What was it specifically that attracted you? I mean, you liked it in the terms of you liked it like you like kids like ice cream, or how did that go for you?
Back then, I didn't really think of the logistics of what sense it appealed to. I just knew that I enjoyed it, and it just stuck with me, really.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned in the article I read that you would consider yourself to be a nonconformist. Is that accurate?
Oh, yeah.
Just in general.
Oh, yeah.
In general, not just with drinking blood, but in general.
In general, yeah.
Yeah. Now, how much of this would you say is you liking the taste, and how much of this is you being a nonconformist, going against tradition?
Well, I never made it a point to go out of my way to go against tradition, simply because there's nothing easy about being non-traditional. But the taste of blood for me and drinking blood never scared me. It never creeped me out. I never particularly felt wrong. So for me, it's just an inherent habit.
Okay.
Wow.
Now, I guess one of the obvious questions is where do you get this blood?
I get blood from like little Korean markets, Chinese markets, because surprisingly, I say that sarcastically, America happens to be one of the only countries that does not utilize blood in common cuisine. So it's easy to find when I go to like cultural stores.
Is that right? I never knew that. So other countries make it like an ingredient.
Yeah, oh yeah, all
really?
the time. It's extremely common. Some people just drink it like I do, and they prefer it raw.
Interesting. Now, the blood that you drink, now I've read that it's both animal and human. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, the animal blood, I'm assuming what you get from the markets is animal blood.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, it would be something else to go to a store and be sold human blood.
Yeah,
Even I might think that's a little odd.
I just wanted to clarify, because that'd be a whole investigation that would have to go on.
Yes, it would be.
Yeah. Now, do you know what type of animals, and do you have a preference for what animal?
I kind of sway in between. I'd say I like pork. I like beef. I will just put it out there. My preference is for human blood, but it's not as accessible as pork or beef blood.
Okay.
It's like you're not walking down the street attacking anyone and kidnapping them or anything like that. Yeah.
Right. Now,
No.
you have a preference for human blood. Where do you get the human blood that you ingest?
It's very selective. I've got people that are close to me that have absolutely no issues with it. Granted, it's always people that I know well, people that know me, and they've known me long enough that my habits are not strange to them either.
Huh.
Wow.
So how... I'm trying to imagine that how does that conversation go at first? I mean, is that something that people... I'm trying to imagine what I would say to something like that. Like, are people taken aback by a request like that?
Well, honestly, I'm super fortunate to have really awesome and open-minded people in my life who I could just say anything to anyways.
Wow.
Yeah. I'd imagine that would have to be the case. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Now, I guess, I guess it would be. Now, how much and how often do you drink blood?
I drink blood on a regular basis. It's not as much as depicted on My Strange Addiction, but it's a pretty significant amount. I do drink it. I try to drink it every single day, but not like, bathtub loads.
Yeah, well,
that's a lot of blood.
Yeah, right. So now, do you bank people's blood, or do you just eat on the fly, so to speak?
Oh, it's on the fly. It's always better warm.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Doug, you look inquisitive.
Well,
over
no,
there.
I mean it's just with when would you started out with, and there's people in our live chat room that are actually, saying the same thing that you are. Like many cultures consume blood as food, and here in America, it's not. It just seems totally out there. It seems in a sense as being, judging you as being some kind of unusual person, when really, when you look at the rest of the world, it's not. It's a normal thing. So,
yeah, is it a normal thing? I mean, I know it's cooking. She's saying it's cooking with it, but is it a normal thing to ingest human blood in other parts of the world? I mean, that's a legitimate question. Do you know that, Michelle? Do you know if this is something that is more prevalent in other countries?
When it comes to the human blood drinking aspect of it, I would probably just say no. I mean, there's a lot of underground cultures that are into vampirism for the sake of fetishism, but I'm not entirely sure about the commonality of drinking blood in other countries.
Wow.
Now, how do you would you consider this a fetish, or you refer to it as a hobby? But if not, how would you differentiate what you do from a fetish?
When people hear the word fetish, they normally affiliate that to sexuality. And I do have an obsession with blood, most definitely, and it has been incorporated into my personal life in the sexual sense as well, but it did not start out as something that was sexualized for me because I was just a kid and I was like, oh, hey, I like that,
Right. So at some point along the way, it became something more than just, hey, I like the taste of this.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, because I also paint with blood, and I utilize blood for a lot of the things that mean the world to me.
You paint with blood?
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I paint with blood.
I thought that's what I heard you say. So, go ahead, Jen.
I have a question. So, when you said you do drink human blood, and it's usually from a person like, whether it be like a boyfriend, girlfriend, friend, whatever, do you drink it right from them? Like, will you ask them to cut themselves a little bit? Like, how does that work?
I give them the option because from where I stand, if somebody wants to offer blood to me, then I really appreciate it. And it's up to them the method of extraction that I use. So if they're okay with giving themselves a little nick, or a little scratch, then that's perfectly fine by me.
Is there a preference of where, do you do it on the neck, like like an actual vampire, or is there the foot?
No. I way prefer I'd say the shoulder area in between the elbow and the shoulder, preferably.
Wow.
I guess the neck's pretty cliche for, you know what I mean?
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Why?
The neck is super cliche, and there probably is some part of me somewhere. As much as I love horror movies, it's like, no way, I am not biting the neck. I can't do it. Can't make myself do it.
Sure.
Now, obviously, like I said at the open, there is the parallel between the cliche traditional vampire and what you do. How do you feel about that? Like, obviously, if somebody, the first thing someone is going to associate with you is that you're a vampire. Are you comfortable with that, or is that something that you kind of rail against?
I'm comfortable with the fact that people are very accustomed to labeling everything. So if people want to call me a vampire, I'm not going to stop them, obviously.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay. Now, is there anyone else that you know of that you spend time with that also does this?
I've got a couple of friends that also do it as well. And what's kind of funny, when I first went on the show, My Strange Addiction, I thought that I was just going to terrify everybody, which I'm sure I terrify quite a few people. But for the most part, I think people realize that drinking blood and sharing it between loved ones and intimate relations is not the worst thing you could do.
Yeah.
Do you find are there certain health benefits to drinking blood or anything like that? Have you anything good about it, or is it just it goes in your body and just kind of becomes your blood or whatnot?
there's a kind of a spiritual aspect in a sense that I feel like the act of drinking blood is the most connected you're ever going to be to life.
Sure.
Next to drinking water, because blood is the fluid that bonds everything alive.
Okay.
That's a good point.
And so I like that feeling more than anything. Physically, I really don't want to say that drinking blood does anything for me other than satisfy me.
I got you. Okay.
Now, speaking of health, I guess one of the other obvious questions is, are you concerned for things like HIV?
Oh, yeah, super concerned. But then again, like as stated earlier, I don't go outside and be like, hey, let me drink your blood, you know?
So basically the sources are well known to you.
Very well known.
Okay. And how about the animal blood that you take in? Like, I wouldn't even know where to begin to know what is and what is not a reputable source for animal blood. Like, how does that work for you?
Well, you got to figure, do you really truly know where the food and drink that you ingest comes from? I mean, really?
No, I guess not.
That's a good point. Yeah.
I'm thinking I'm not going to McDonald's and ordering the blood. So these places that you're going to, I don't know. I mean, it's that you would know that better than I would as far as their reputation, I guess, is kind of what I'm getting at. I guess I'm not sure exactly where you would go. Is it places that sell like ingredients to, say, Asian market places and things like that?
Yeah, they just have it in like little
wholesalers.
containers. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. I just that would be a huge concern of mine if I was were to do something like this, is where not only the AIDS thing, but what else could possibly be in any blood from anywhere.
You ever get a bad batch where you drink it and you're like, what was in that blood? Like, ooh, that person drank a lot of alcohol. Or that, I don't know.
Well, that's a good point.
Well, I could see where you'd ask that.
Right.
Everybody is their own individual person, rightfully. And so everybody has their own scent. Everybody has their own unique essence about them. So when I drink blood from humans, I could never say that anybody tastes the same.
Wow.
Really? So each person has their own taste?
They do. I mean, there's the general base, which is, iron. It's always going to be remotely salty because that's the nature of blood, but there's always a little bit of a different taste.
Wow.
Now, Jen, you mentioned a question earlier you were going to ask about age.
Oh, about like certain ages, like if
Oh yeah. So you know how like there's aged wine. Do you like aged blood? Like, is that more like appealing? Like, do you like fresh blood, or do you like if it's sitting in your refrigerator for like a couple weeks, like will you drink it then, or do you have like a preference of how old the blood has to be?
Since I prefer to drink human blood, but then don't have that much access to it, in which case I do like it fresh. And then when I get it from the stores, I prefer to drink it quicker than later because blood spoils quickly.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Now, have you narrowed it down to a blood type you prefer and or I guess, age of a person, sex of a person? Like, do you have a profile of the perfect person to drink from?
Well, what's funny is even though I know everybody personally that I do drink blood from, I feel more comfortable talking about, how I'm going to drink their blood than I feel taking the census.
I'm sorry, taking the what?
Like, taking a census and asking people like all these sorts of things. And I usually know them anyways because we're close.
Right. Okay.
Has there ever been a point, like if you go to a checkup for a doctor or whatnot, has there ever been any kind of concern mentioned to you that congesting all of this blood, is it doing anything to your health, or is it just it is what it is, you drink it and that's it?
Ironically enough, when I went to that doctor, because I did legitimately go to the doctor on my strange addiction.
Oh.
And yeah, and they did give me all of my blood tests, and I do get tested regularly. And the doctor sat there and tried to formulate some sense of why it's bad for me to drink blood, because the only blood problem I have is anemia.
Okay.
So the doctor tried to address health concerns and issues, and it's pretty much the same thing everybody says. It's like you guys were saying, HIV and blood-borne diseases and things of that nature.
Right.
But I have yet to be pegged with anything, and I do take precaution.
Sure. So it sounds, again, like you said, it sounds like in My Strange Addiction, they were just trying to basically show everyone that, oh, this is an addiction that's not good whatsoever. So they were trying to dramatize it a lot to where it really isn't as bad as they may make it out to be.
Oh, super. They super duper dramatized it. I thought it was hilarious when the doctor was like stumbling over his words, trying to say something good for the show, but realistically he couldn't tell me anything that anybody else without, medical knowledge could tell me.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, would you let someone drink from you?
I've let somebody drink from me once, but otherwise it hasn't really come up.
Okay.
Wow.
All right.
Yeah, I've had a couple of people write to me after the show and stuff. I've had some people go ahead and email me pictures of wounds and ask if the wound was sufficient, but other than that.
Oh, jeez.
Like all of a sudden you're the expert.
Yeah, the fan mail.
Now,
yeah.
Sorry. What I was going to ask was, I think I read that it said you liked to bathe in blood, and now when you do that, do you mix it with water, or is it just a lot of straight up blood?
Blood, definitely straight up blood.
Really? Wow.
No, that is very much like a historical figure named Elizabeth Bathory, who was reportedly, myth or legend has it, she was also a vampire. Now, she did it back in the day for the benefits to her skin, supposedly keeping her young. Are you finding the same thing, or is it helping your skin tone and whatever else you physically?
No, not at all, actually, because I'm not one of those women who's all paranoid about getting older, so I definitely don't do it for aesthetic reasons.
Okay.
And I don't either. I also don't get a big ass straw. Oh, sorry, cuss.
No,
you're fine. It's uncensored.
Okay, good. I don't take a big straw and just stick it in the bathtub and start drinking it while I'm soaking it,
That would be interesting.
Yeah, that would be someone drinking their own bathwater or something, It's, yeah.
Do you get perny when you're in the blood? No, okay, anyway. Now, aside from being this modern day vampire, or, what else do you do? What do you do in your everyday life? Do you work?
I do work, actually. I happen to be a tattoo artist.
Oh, that's awesome. And then I see you paint too. And what you said earlier, you also paint with blood.
Oh, yeah. I mean, my whole entire existence, aside from the whole blood thing, the things that define me are all based around art and music.
Wow, that's awesome. I remember you saying that you do you do karaoke night, or you do an open mic night?
Yeah, I do a community, uncensored open mic kind of thing every Thursday here in Lancaster.
That's
cool.
Awesome.
Interesting. Now, does this does your hobby of blood drinking, does that come into play at all with your work, as far as either I guess designs that you come up with as a tattoo artist or as a painter?
Oh, yeah. I mean, more so when I'm painting, because I still truly have the freedom of painting, because the canvas is merely a reflection of myself, whereas tattooing, I'm putting art on somebody. So unless they specifically want something of that nature, then I'm obligated to do what I've got to do.
Right.
Man, if you ever come to the East Coast of New Jersey, I want a tattoo from you.
Eventually, I would like to travel around someday.
Awesome.
There you go. Now, your family, how did they take this hobby of yours?
Not gonna lie, they weren't surprised.
They weren't surprised.
No, I'm the youngest of 7 siblings, and I've always kind of done my own thing. And so there's not much I could do that would shock those poor people.
Well, I mean, for some people, that's, walking to your own drummer means, I don't know, you like a different baseball team or something. This is
a little bit.
This is a bit much. Yeah. I can only imagine. Thanksgiving has to be fun in the family.
How much?
Well, I don't like. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
No, go ahead.
Yeah,
go
I
ahead.
don't go out of my way to shove it in their faces. I'm lucky for the family members that accept me and have always accepted me for the way that I am. But I'm definitely not like, look at me, I'm drinking blood, I'm covered in blood, I'm gonna fight this guy,
Every conversation starts with, so today I drank the blood.
Well, see, that's all about it. I mean, it's just like every single person. We have our own likes, our own hobbies, our own things. I mean, obviously, talking to you, you're just as normal as anyone else. You just have this hobby of drinking blood. That's it. I mean, it's not like you're going around when you're in a store being like, your arm looks good. It's just something that you have an interest in.
That's a pretty good way of putting it, actually. That's exactly what it feels like for me. It's like an everyday thing. I mean, it's just my nature. So, it's not strange to me.
Wow. How much blood would you say you have at a time? I mean, like for example, I mean, do you have a refrigerator full or whatnot, or I mean, what would you say you hold at a time to have on you?
I've got a freezer that's got a pretty good amount of blood in it.
Okay.
I'd say I've got about 6 containers of blood collectively. There's probably a few liters there.
Wow.
Do you carry it with you out in public and drink it in public?
Not really, no, because, again, I feel like I don't want to go out of my way to do something that I'm perfectly content with doing in the security of my own home.
Sure.
Yeah, I imagine that would have to be a rough conversation if you ever got, pulled over by a cop or something like that,
What are you drinking?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
I actually have a question from Kelly in the chat room, and she said, what she said? Oh, like how much blood does it take to fill up a bathtub? Like, where do you get that much?
Your typical water gallon amount.
Like, do you just go and say, hey, need 20 gallons of blood, give it to me? Like, is that, do you do that? Or do you just kind of collect over time?
Yeah, I kind of just collect and freeze.
Wow, that's so cool.
I minimalize the whole blood bathing thing, though, because I'm not going to front. It is very hard to clean.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
I can imagine.
That's true.
Wow.
Yeah. All right. Well, Michelle, I want to thank you for coming on tonight. That was very kind of you to take time out of your day to come on and talk with us.
And being open, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And definitely,
my pleasure.
If you ever want to come back on the show again, to talk about anything, or if we ever happen to have a topic come up where this is a relevant topic, you're more than welcome to come and join us again and chime in and give your opinion as someone who does this as a hobby.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I mean, I did enjoy my chat there with Jenna B with the cute name.
Thank you.
So you guys go ahead and let me know. And it was a pleasure being on the show, and I hope you guys have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. You
Thank
too.
you.
You too, Michelle. You take care.
Okay, you too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
But, I mean, again, it's very interesting. The first thing you would think about with someone who does this is, I'm sure she's gotten all kinds of criticism as being called freak or vampire or all the negative religious things you can think of, but she seemed pretty normal to me and just just likes to drink blood.
Yeah, I mean, everybody has their thing, and you know, it's not a normal thing. I mean, you're not going to sit here and tell you that it's something that's normal, but
what is normal?
People would assume me and my love for pizza isn't normal, but I would bathe in a bathtub full of pizza if I could.
Hey, that's weird.
You
Turn her
would
mic
bathe
off.
in a bathtub full of pizza.
Just saying, everyone has their own likes. I like pizza. I would do it.
Interesting.
I like looking at myself in front of the mirror.
Interesting. So, Linda, what do you think about all this?
That's what I was going to say.
Well, you got to talk in the mic. Don't talk to Doug behind the
She
scenes.
asks me. She'll tap me and say, "Can I say something?" And I'm like, "Go for
I
it."
will tell you this. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I'm married to a Hispanic gentleman from Puerto Rico. His family's from Puerto Rico. The very first time I experienced a family get together with them, of course, I didn't know any Spanish at the time, so it was really fun. But anyway, they were giving me plates of food. It was actually a Mother's Day. So all the men cooked for the mothers, and we sat around and got served. I sat and ate like 2 plates full of this delicious food I've never experienced before. And after the second plate, my husband, who wasn't my husband at the time, says, "How did you like that?" I said, "That was very delicious." It was blood sausage.
Oh,
Never
boy.
will I get why I've ever, just because I knew what it was, but actually it was good.
Sometimes
That
if
was
it's
years
good,
ago.
I was gonna say sometimes if it's good, just don't ask.
It was actually really good, but now I know, which I don't even know if they even do that anymore. Actually, this was a long time ago, but it was good.
Your mom could,
all of a sudden,
her and Michelle.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I
she
come
sounded pretty cool.
come over to her house and she's like, "Here, try some of this red juice."
See that? she comes onto our show a couple times and she's drinking blood.
Yeah, see that?
Look at that.
Look at that.
Boom. Done. Our work here is done.
Yes.
All right, we're going to take a break here. We're going to come back and start wrapping things up.
Alrighty.
Oh, I miss the 80s.
Me too.
I wasn't born until 91, so.
The good old 80s.
Oh, boy.
It's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the 90s came. But I said this.
That's how it usually goes.
Yeah, I said this during the break. We've had a breakthrough on this mysterious Kanye West.
Uh-oh. Doug is obsessed with finding out who Kanye
I'm
West.
telling you, Kanye. They posted during the break. Kanye misses her friends Rick and Doug.
That's great.
So Kanye is a woman.
Interesting.
We just got to find out who it is.
Well, Kanye thinks he's God.
Unless
And God's boobs.
unless Kanye is a man who is pretending to be a woman just to screw with you.
Well, then I want to interview him.
I'm just sorry he was on the toilet again this week.
He was on the toilet.
Yes.
They reveal a lot of different things on here, but
What?
good old.
Wait, what? He was on the toilet.
Yes, last week you weren't here. We missed you, by the way. He had a problem last week. And then this
Your
week
mother
he
comes
said-
up with the most interesting
I'm telling you.
interjections to the.
Yeah.
I think it says he
Dude,
was on the toilet.
I'm
Yeah.
telling you, Kanye comes up like you're not on the chat because you're doing everything else.
Yeah.
But if you see the stuff that he or she writes in this chat room, it's unbelievable. like all of a sudden it's random. Kanye had tacos.
Interesting.
I mean, hopefully one day Kanye can call in and reveal like.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I think we had a breakthrough at least saying it's a woman.
All right.
So
well, I could go on about Kanye all night.
I'm telling you, yeah.
However,
follow him on Twitter at Paradelphia's Kanye.
now we're doing plugs
now
for
we're
him.
plugging for him.
gosh.
Yeah.
Great.
I wonder if it's really him. Anyway.
Funny would that be? All right, Doug. You run a team of paranormal investigators.
I do.
Called Jumps.
They are my crazy group of people.
What do they do? What are they doing this week?
Tomorrow night, unfortunately, I have to work night works because none of this pays all my bills yet. So they're actually going on an investigation of private residence in Pennsville, and they're going to be investigating a home that apparently the people have used Ouija boards in the past. And ever since then, all this weird, strange stuff happens. I mean, they even report at one point they came home and they're very clean people, but had a bunch of like maggots in their living room, like a pile of them.
Really?
So they had an exterminator come in to try to see where it came from, and the exterminator, there's nothing. Don't have any idea what.
Well, maggots wouldn't show up unless there was fresh meat, right?
and not only that. Well, I mean, maggots.
Not fresh meat, but
not fresh.
Spoiled meat.
Maggots are another form of things that they say can follows the demonic thing. I mean, the same thing with crows being on a roof of a house or...
Caca!
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't have a caca. Shoot. I have to add that one. But yeah, they're going to go in and they're going to check it out, see what they can come up with. But also, next week, Kelly did a Paranormal Corner.
Kelly Ron Case.
Yeah, Kelly Ron Case. She writes Paranormal Corner, South Jersey Times every Monday, and which she's coming up on 3 years of it in October.
Wow.
It's really running strong. So, but anyway, she did an article a few weeks ago. She actually has a friend. We actually investigated for her friend a few years ago when she lived in a different house.
Mm-hmm.
But she recently moved, and the activity is still going on, kind of the same, but possibly feels that it's following her. Her friend. So we're going to go in and check it out, and then actually we're going to have Gene come in and, again, help us out with that. So, when that happens, I'd like to have you come too. We can kind of do our same kind of experiment type thing and see what happens.
Yeah,
with the
that was
whole
interesting.
Gene thing.
That was interesting last night.
So, but yeah, other than that, another big announcement. Just found this out. I haven't told this to the team yet. But 2 days ago, I got an email from the director and the producer. But in 2014, early to mid 2014, we filmed some amateur footage, so to speak, of at Penrose Strawbridge House for a movie called Remorse.
Okay.
Well, we sent the footage over and things like that. They packaged it in and whatnot, but they've actually just released the movie on iTunes a couple days ago. So it's available on iTunes to rent or buy, and then the actual hard copies is going right to DVD. Will be released next month, but they changed the name to Apparition.
The name of the movie.
Yeah, because I guess the movie company, their production that picked it up, the distributor, thought it would be better to change it to Apparition, so that's what they did. So hopefully once it's released on DVD, they were talking about coming down and we're going to, they want to throw like a big release party in South Jersey and different release parties all over, so they asked us if we'd be involved with that. So the movie's out. It's on iTunes. I'm not sure exactly where we're located in the movie because I haven't seen any final thing.
But you are in the movie.
But yeah, apparently we are. And then they only used a portion of it. However, when you go into I guess with the DVD and like the bonus footage, that's where you can actually see all of the videos that we did.
Okay.
So again, part of the movie, but we're in bonus footage for the thing, and
so now this begs the question: have you gotten an agent yet?
No, yes, our content producer.
Really, Jen is your
I
agent?
didn't sign up for this. You're only paying
Wow.
me in cookies at this point.
You got a lot. You got a lot on your plate.
I know.
I'll tell you. I am my own agent. What can I say?
Awesome.
So I'm playing with this pointer. Mike just sat down on me and said, "Here's your pointer." I didn't know I asked for one, but hey, thanks.
But you don't have a selfie stick. So
Yeah,
just
it's right
going to
here.
put that out there.
Alrighty.
So
All right.
yeah.
So that's pretty interesting. Now, as far as the show going forward, we have some interesting guests lined up. Now, I want to send a little shout out here because I said this to her during the week, but Jenna has been a revelation for this show. As far as reaching out to guests, tonight's guest, Michelle Navarette, that was one of the first ones that she procured. And going forward, we have probably 5 or 6 weeks, maybe more, worth of guests lined up.
Oh yeah, we got an interesting lineup.
Now, Jen, do you have that lineup?
Yes. Okay. So next week, May 14th, is the Bell Witch expert, and he's a book writer, and his name's Pat Fitzhugh. And then the 21st is a zombie prepper. He's a writer on Zombie God magazine. His name's Ian McKellen.
He believes the zombie apocalypse is real.
Yeah, he basically, him and a bunch of other authors. Actually, the first guy that I contacted, he was in London so this Zombie God magazine is all over the world.
Wow.
And they basically like go by where they are, and they say, okay, if you're on the East Coast, this is what you need to do to survive the zombie apocalypse. So I'm really excited about that because I'm a huge Walking Dead fan. And then the 28th is an anti-geoengineering activist, I guess you could say, and she's part of a group called Bye Bye Blue Skies, and her name is Suzanne Mayer, and she's going to talk to us about like chemtrails and the weather balloons. She's from Canada, and I guess she thinks that Canadian government working with the United States government are trying to like make people sick with chemtrails, spraying stuff.
I love conspiracy
yes,
theories. I love that.
Yeah,
we'll have to bring Mike in on that one because he loves loves conspiracies.
Apparently she believes that the government controls the weather and when people get sick.
Interesting.
So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things like in there, so I'm hoping that I understand it all because I have a tiny brain. But anyway, and then the 4th, which Doug set that up, was a guy from Susquehanna. How do you say it?
Well, we were kind of talking about we're kind of still in a sense setting that up for June 4th. We kind of wanted to have like a paranormal experience kind of show.
Yeah.
Including the clients from last night during that investigation, and a guy named Jeff Kiger, who I helped out a few years ago, who had an incredible experience at Sapona Meadows. So I think it would be a great topic to get into.
Yeah, we've been kicking around the idea of that show being kind of a, like Doug just said, a show of people coming on to give their experiences. Now, we have a couple that are set up, but we were also considering doing like an open phone
line.
Phone line that night, so people could call in and give their own personal experiences.
Definitely.
So beyond that,
and then the next thing I have set up after that is June 18th. It's a guy named Howard Storm.
Not Howard
Stern.
I
keep wanting to say Howard Stern. Anyway, but it's not Howard
Stern is not coming on the show.
No, that'd be cool. But Howard Storm, and he experienced hell. He was an atheist. He was very active atheist, and he was a college professor, and he died. And he tells the story about how demons were torturing him when he died, and God came to him and said, "You have another chance. Don't screw it up." He quit being a professor, and now he is a minister.
Well, it's not like your typical, near-death experience where you go to heaven and talk. I mean, this guy claims that he went to hell.
Yeah, he has books. He's a painter. He has a couple of paintings out there of what God looks like. So I have to read up a little bit more on him, but he's really interesting. So we got some cool people.
And then the last one, the 25th we have set up so far, is an Andrew Basiago, and he claims that he's an attorney in Washington State. Grew up in Morristown, New Jersey, but he claims that in the 60s and 70s, when he was a kid, him and 149 other children were part of a government project called Project Pegasus, and another project you mentioned, we were talking about it. Yeah. But he claims that he has and continues to be a time traveler. He's wrote about it. In fact, Jenna gave me a link earlier that last year he was arrested because he went missing, and he was found in the stock market in New York doing all these stock things, and he was arrested saying that in the future where he's from, he knew what to put all the stocks in and whatnot.
See, that's what I would do.
So
I'd bet the Super Bowl and all that shit.
Like Marty McFly, Back to the Future.
Yeah.
So we have one heck of a lineup.
All right. So that's the next 2 months worth of Paradelphia. So,
and then of course Grover's Mills.
We're going to work on getting up there, possibly doing a live show where the topic is War of the Worlds.
Excellent.
It will happen. It's just a matter of when it's going to happen that we're trying to work out. Yeah. So it's going to happen.
All right. So that's what we got coming up. So people, buckle up.
We got some good ones.
Buckle up. We got some good ones. All right. So we're going to wrap up here. Once again, I want to thank Michelle Navarette for coming on tonight and discussing her blood drinking hobby. That was very, very interesting.
Yeah.
And of course, once again, thank you to our number one fan, Linda Lopez, for stopping in.
It was an honor. You guys are awesome.
Thank you for your gifts.
She ends every show with that, yeah.
Thank you for your gifts and your commentary. That was quite interesting. All right, so Doug, Jenna?
Yes.
Peace out.
We're going to wrap it up here. And guys, thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks for viewing.
Mike just walked in. Looks like hell.
Mike's here at the very last second. Thanks, Mike. Thanks for doing nothing, Mike. We'll catch you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.